Hello guys, my name is Desmond and I welcome you to my lesson for today where we'll be looking at mathematics paper 2, the chapter called Analytical Geometry. So as you can see over there, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a sketch from the question paper that I sent in the group. So just to confirm before I go deep in today's lesson, did you guys see the question paper that I sent in the group? Shravan, Shreyas, Dooms.
I did say.
Okay, 100%. So what I'm going to be doing in today's lesson is to quickly read through the given statement, go through the given sketch, go through the questions, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, show you exactly how you answer questions related to this question. So, guys, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important, hello, because what I'm about to say is massively, massive. Hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. Shravan, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Okay, so guys, we are given a statement which reads as follows. A, B, C. Let's try to check exactly where is A, B, and C. So there is A, there is B, there is C. Remember, guys, in case if you want to see the question paper that I'm reading, it's there in the group. But the statement is not that long, so you can just be listening there. So it says A, B, and C is a triangle with vertices. Remember, the word vertices simply refers to the corners. So obviously they've mentioned 3 letters, and we know corners of or maybe 3 corners are possibly referring to a triangle. So they are saying A, B, and C is a triangle with vertices A having the coordinates of 1 and 3, and then C having P and -4. So they say with P greater than 0. So this is how it is written, P greater than 0 there. And of course, we know that P is actually the X value, and it is obviously greater than 0. So that means this point being P, it is the X value being greater than 0. Of course, we can see it's on this side of the X-axis. So don't get confused by that statement. So as we continue, it says in a Cartesian plane. So that's what they've spoken about regarding what is represented on a Cartesian plane. So just to read it for the last time, they're saying triangle ABC is a triangle with vertices A, B, and C having those coordinates, with P being greater than 0 on a Cartesian plane. So remember, guys, a Cartesian plane is this line and that line, this being called the x-axis, that one the y-axis, and the point of intersection of the 2 lines called the origin. So at the origin, we know that we've got O, or being 0 there. So let's continue with the given statement. So they say AB makes an angle of 45 degrees with the positive x-axis. So let's see, what are they talking about there? They are saying AB. Where's AB? There is line AB. So they're talking about that straight line over there from point A to point B. They say it makes an angle of 45 degrees, which is that angle from there in the anti-clockwise direction. There it forms a 45-degree angle with the positive x-axis. Okay, so let's see. They say AC is equals to square root of 50. So, ladies and gentlemen, something that you need to remember is that always when they give you something in capital letters, it simply refers to the length or the distance. So it simply refers to the length or the distance. So for example, if they say, let's say AB, for the fact that it is written in capital letters, always suspect that we could be talking about the length from A up to what is it? B. So you will understand better in terms of what I mean when I say a statement or question having capital letters. So can you guys see that the given diagram, it doesn't have that important information which says a AC, it is actually equals to square root of 50. So with a different marker, let's write it there to say AC, it is actually equals to square root of 50 units. So it's more like they've given us the length or the distance from A up to C, which means, ladies and gentlemen, in the future or when we continue with answering the questions, we might get to a point where we might need to use the distance formula. Why? Simply because of that length already being given. And normally when they give you the length or the distance, you might find that they actually want you to calculate either the x or the y value. You will notice more of that as we continue. So, ladies and gentlemen, an interpretation that I can do on this given diagram, it's simply to say we've got a Cartesian plane having the x and the y axis, and then everything it is drawn on a Cartesian plane. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So now let's have a look. Can you see point A? It lies in the first quadrant of the Cartesian plane. So you need to remember that. This is the first quadrant, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, this is quadrant 4. So now we've got point A in the first quadrant. So we obviously know that we've got positive x value and positive y value. Let's see. Can you see this point? It lies along the x-axis, which obviously means y it's equals to 0. But now t representing the x value is actually on the negative side of the x-axis, which means for some reason, of which is something that I can smell, if examiner says determine the value of t, in short, they want you to actually determine the x value of t, which means, ladies and gentlemen, in short, you just need to expect a negative value over there. So you will need to apply all the tactics that I usually apply when I solve this type of questions. The other thing that I want to talk about is this point C, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, so the arrangement of this thing alone, it is actually a point. Then inside you've got what we call the coordinates. So that means a letter represents a point. So this is a point. And then here, in terms of the coordinates, you always have x and y. So that means whatever that comes first, it's a number or a letter, it represents the x value. And then the second one, it represents the y value. So can you see there? It seems like the people who formed this question paper, there was someone called Philip. Bra Philip said, we are going to name this x value after my name. So don't get confused, guys. If they talk about P, in your mind, you know very well that this type of arrangement is what we call a point having the coordinates. So this is the x value, this is the P value. So someone somewhere might think that because it's letter P, it means it's not x value. I'm telling you guys over there. So just make sure that you don't get confused by letters being used. Just try to remember that that letter, it is actually in place of whatever, and for it to be letter P, it could be that this question paper was said by Philimo. So now, ladies and gentlemen, before I move to the first question, are you guys ready to fight, or is there someone who's got a question?
No question, sir.
No question from Shuyas. Ragunanan, on your side, do you have a question before we start answering the questions? Hello.
Understanding.
No question from Shravan. Tumza, on your side. Lerato, I see you just joined. It's unfortunate, I think you missed the first part of the lesson, but you can still catch up. So for those of you guys who attended from the beginning, are we all on the same page? Can we now start answering the questions?
So
I
we can proceed.
suppose. Okay, 100%. Tumza just confirmed that we can proceed. So now let's have a look at the first question. So the first question says, determine the gradient of AB. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there, that at all times, when you are asked a question, ask yourself this thing: do you have two things? So let me just bring another board for this question. I just want to quickly explain something to you guys. To say, when the question says determine the gradient, ask yourself this question: what do you know about the gradient? We do know very well that the gradient, it is equals to change in y over change in x. This is actually equals to y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. With analytical geometry, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. You remember, guys, this same formula of gradient can still be equated to tan of angle theta over there. So now, because the question wants us to calculate the gradient, so Shravan, let me not make it too complicated there. But say again, we've got another formula which says the gradient, it is equals to what is it? Tan of the angle there. So it's either you use this formula or you can possibly use that other formula. So now the question is, do you have the 2 points that you can use to determine the gradient of A, B? It's unfortunate I cannot use point A and point B. Why? Because at point B, I don't have the actual value there, but it is in the form of a T, which means the suitable formula is possibly that one. It is possibly that one having an angle over there. I'm not sure if you guys are following what I'm trying to explain to you, but what I'm saying is in answering question 4.1, we can therefore say the gradient of AB, it is actually going to be equals to tan of a 45 degrees. What is that when you punch that on a calculator? I think it's 1. Is it not 1, guys? I remember from special angles for 45 that you have 1, 1, then the root of 2.
It's 1, sir.
Yes, but now, do you agree with me on that calculation to say, to calculate the gradient of AB, I can just use that angle? Do you guys agree with me on that one? Guys, are you still there? Or is it maybe something that you are not aware of, which could be the reason why you are not responding to my is it something new that you guys learned to say you can use that to calculate the gradient? Can someone just give me an indication?
So
Yes, hello.
if we were asked to look for the midpoint of B and C, were we gonna use the same method as well, using
Uh,
that angle?
okay, so in that case, Nompumelelo, it's more like, so let's say it's all about the approach. So if they were talking about the midpoint of AB, the first thing that you must do is to try and write everything that you know about the midpoint. So let's say the midpoint of AB, all that we know is the formula which says you're
Sorry,
going to
sir.
say,
Sorry, I meant the gradient, not the
or the
midpoint. I meant saying gradient, yes,
gradient
of B and C.
oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Now, no, that yes is just to say yes, now I get it. So it's more like you're not referring to the midpoint, but the gradient. So here's an answer to that question. So it's more like if you have B there and you have C there, this is what I would do. I would firstly write that equation and again write that equation over there. But now, in this case, you cannot use this angle because you normally use this angle if it's an angle formed, let's say, from this line. If it is an angle starting from the x-axis and then it goes up to whatever the line that is. Let's say this angle may be what is it? It's 100 and something, yeah, because it's 90 and then 100. Maybe let's say this angle is 101 degrees. So you can therefore use that angle to calculate the gradient of A and C. So obviously you'll be expecting a negative gradient because this line is actually crossing or ending in the third, and if you extend it, it was going to end in the second. But can you see that angle is from the x-axis going to touch the line of AB. So in short, it has got nothing to do with line BC, which means you cannot use the tan angle to calculate the gradient of BC because we do not have the angle formed between that x-axis and that line of BC. I'm not sure, Nompumelelo, did I try to answer you correctly there?
Yes, sir. I'm good now.
Okay, 100%. So now, that means we now have the gradient of that line AB. Let's now try to move to the next question. So the next question says, calculate the value of T. Hey, calculate the value of T. And this question is just allocated 2 marks, guys. Also, the previous question was allocated 2 marks. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, you just need to be aware of something. I'll give an example, and you guys should be very careful about this. If you have 2 points, after having the 2 points, you are somehow able to calculate something. It could be the midpoint, it could be the distance, it could be the gradient of those 2 points. So in this case, can you see, we have calculated the gradient of this line, which means anything else that has to do with point A and B, we can get assistance from the gradient formula. Nompumelelo, what I'm saying is, for line AC, can you see, we are given the distance of line AC, or the distance from point A to C. Because we are given the distance, it means if there's a question on these 2 points, we might as well try get answers from the distance formula. Why? Because we are given the distance of point A and C. I'll give another example. So, for example, if we were given the midpoint of BC, 3 years, that means for us to answer questions related to these 2 points of B and C, we might as well get answers from the midpoint formula. So what I'm trying to say is, now question 4.2, it says calculate the value of T. So can you see the value of T is a point between that line, it's a point along this line of A and B. So what I'm saying is, what do we know about this line of A, B? We know the gradient. So what I'm saying in short, Lerato, is that let's consult from the gradient formula if we can possibly be possibly be able to answer that question. Guys, did what I've just explained now, does it make sense in terms of the distance, midpoint, and gradient? Does it make sense to everyone there? I think that was important, guys. That was very, very much important. I'm just not sure if you guys got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Then
100%. So now, can you guys see? Because they want the value of T, and we already have the gradient of line A, B. So let's say the gradient. So in terms of the gradient, it doesn't matter whether you refer to the gradient as G or M. So normally they can still use small letter m and say small letter m, it is equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But remember, the coordinates of A, we have 1 and 3 there. And then again, we have a B being T and a 0 there. So can you guys see? We just calculated the gradient of line AB, which is what? Which is 1. That's equals to. What is y2? So can you see? We use letter B because it comes second. So let's use, remember, this is going to be x1, x2, y2, x1, y1. So What is y2? Y2, obviously, it is 0, then minus, what is y1? Y1, it is 3 over, what is x2? Then can you see x2, it is represented by t, minus x1, it is 1 over there. So remember, guys, we are expecting a negative t value. Why? Because at that point of B, this is where you've got the negative x value. So just make sure that whatever that you calculate, you get a negative value. Otherwise, if you don't, just know that you must have done something wrong. So let's see. You remember me saying when you have a fraction on the other side, we also fractionalize the other side. Why do we do that? It's because we want to cross multiply. So it's more like you say 1 times the whole of this. So it is just 1 into t minus 1. This is equals to 1 times the whole of that. So it is just 1, 0 minus 3. So obviously this times that times that, it is just t minus 1. This times that, it is just the same as negative 3, even if you punch the whole of this. So can you see letters on one side, numbers on one side? So that means t, it is equals to negative 3. I'm just not sure if you guys are still able to see over there, but let me just do this. Can you see plus 1 over there? What is that? I think this is negative 2. So can you guys see that the t value, it is actually negative 2, and of course we expected a negative number, and it does suit to be a negative number because of the position or because of the point of t over there. So let's say it is negative 2 and 0 there, being the coordinates of point B. Did you guys understand that calculation there? Did it make sense to everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
100%. So now let's try to move to the next question. Can someone read for us the next question there? I'll just remove all of these.
calculates P the x coordinate of point C.
Calculate P. What is it? Let me see. There is negative 2. Okay, we are now on 4.3. So Rato says, the question says calculate P, the x coordinate of point C. Can you see? Where is P? There is P, ladies and gentlemen, being the x coordinate of point C. Is there someone who wants to explain to me how we can approach that one? And if you remember me giving you a tip, can you also mention that tip? Just mention your name if you want to give it a try, and then I'll just choose from the names. So you just explain the approach to this question. Dumelo just mentioned her name. Is there someone else who also wants to give it a try? Okay. Okay, no, it's fine. Lerato, let's allow Dumelo to give it a try. Dumelo, give it a try.
So
Mm-hmm.
they've in the statement they've stated that AC is equal to a root of 50, and which is like is the distance between A to C.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're going to use the distance formula.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're gonna substitute the AC, and let's say, then look for x2. Then that
Okay.
x2 is the x coordinates of P.
Okay.
So
I hope everyone understood that part. So it is actually based on that idea, Doomsa, to say, if you have 2 points and you know something about those 2 points, of which in this case is the distance, then we can consult with the distance formula to check if we can be able to calculate that point. If we were given the gradient between the 2 points, it means we can try and consult with the gradient formula if we're given the gradient, or if we calculate the gradient. If it was the midpoint, same thing. So let's try to see the a over there. We've got it as 1 and 3. Then we also have, no, it's not B, but it's point C. So point C, we are having P and -4 over there. So that means between A and C, which letter comes first is A. So let's take this as our first values, which means there we've got x1 and y1. There we've got x2 and y2. So it's very much important, ladies and gentlemen, to write them like that, because once you mix them up, you're going to get incorrect values over there. So let's now try to substitute. Let's see. What is our x2? Can you see our x2? It is P minus, what is our x1? It's 1. Just make sure that whatever that I'm substituting there, guys, I'm substituting correctly, because otherwise, if I don't, we are going to get incorrect values. So plus, what is y2? Can you see y2? It is -4 over there, minus that one being y1, it is 3, you close, you squared. But remember, they said the distance between A and C, it is actually equals to the root of 50. So we just substitute it as it is. From there, ladies and gentlemen, we just simplify. How do we simplify? We want to remove the square root. How do we remove the square? Always when you remove the square root, you introduce a squared, and then that means whatever that you do on the other side, you do the same on the other side. So it's just a math problem that you now need to work it out. Let's see. That squared, it is going to remove the square root, you remain with 50, and then also it is going to remove that square root, you remain with P minus 1 squared plus, what is this? So that is -4 minus 3. You just write everything as it is, but without a square root. So that's how you remove the square root. From there, it's just a matter of simplifying. So it's more like we've got 50 there being equals to that squared. Can you see, guys? Because of that squared, it means we are now dealing with a quadratic equation. So that means whatever that we do, Shravan, is just to rewrite everything in the standard form. So that squared over there, it simply means you have 2 of the same thing. That squared over there, it means you have 2 of the same thing. So can someone punch this on a calculator? I think this is 7. I think this is 49, guys. I think if you punch that, is
yes,
it
it is.
49? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So can you now see a let's bring everything to one side and equate it to 0. So it's more like now I can just take this to the other side so that I have 0 there. Then what am I going to have? So I'm going to have, if you have this, obviously you know it is that times that, that times that, this times that, that times that. So what is P times P? It is P squared. What is P times -1? It is -1P. What is -1 times P? It is minus P. What is -1 times -1? On a calculator, it gives you +1. So now we get to this stage. Remember, we are having plus 49 there, but remember, you also transpose that to the other side and it changes the sign. It is now -50. So let's try to simplify Shreyas. When you simplify, can you see you still have 0 there, you have p squared minus p, I think this is minus 2p. What is this, guys? I think this is 50 minus 50 is 0. Yes, I think that is 0. Then we can just end it there. So it is now more like it's in the standard form, whereby, for example, we know our A value there, it is invisible 1, our B, it is negative 2, and our C, it is 0 there. So you have two ways in which you can answer this question. And the first way is to use that quadratic equation to find the factor. So otherwise, you can just take out a common factor from there. So let me just rewrite it nicely so that it makes perfect sense. So we've got p that minus 2p is equals to 0. So it's more like I'm just rewriting them nicely such that 0 is on the right side. So nothing has changed. It's more like, it's not like I transposed or whatever. Nothing has changed there. So let's see, what is common factor? Can you see there, p is there, p is there. So you can take it out, and then you have 1p minus 2, then you say this is equals to 0, which means this p you equate it to 0, and then you say, or then p minus what is it, p minus 2, you equate it to 0, meaning p is equals to, you transpose, then it's positive 2. So for those of you who do a private lesson with me, can you now see that it is very much important that you understand how to deal with a quadratic equation, so that normally when you have SATs, which is a problem that is a square root, when you have those, you remove the square root and you're most likely to be having something similar to this, of which, because of that squared, it already tells you that this is a quadratic equation. And you know, when you have a quadratic equation, the main aim is to have it written in the standard form. Once it's in the standard form, you can now factorize, find the factors by using your head or using the quadratic equation. Or otherwise, in these cases where your C is 0, you just take out a common factor and then you equate that to 0 or whatever. Then you need to choose between these two values. It's only one value which actually represents P. So which value between these two represent that x value of point C being P? Which value is it, guys?
It's a positive 2, sir.
So can you see?
Please repeat the question.
So the question was that between these two values, which one suits to be a P value?
It's positive 2.
Yes, it is positive 2 because can you see where P is? So that P, the x value, it is positive 2. And you remember from the statement, they said P, it is greater than 0. They knew that you are going to perform a calculation where you have two values. So that means we can just cross this one to say P, it is not equals to 0, but it is equals to 2. Did you all understand there, ladies and gentlemen? Did that make sense to everyone?
Yes, I understood.
Yes.
Okay, 100%. So now, let's try to update on our drawing, and then from there, we'll move to the next question. So with analytical geometry, guys, it's very much important that you keep track of your answer. So there we are having positive 2 and negative 4 over there. I'm hoping everything that we're doing there, ladies and gentlemen, those calculations are correct, because this is exactly what I would do if I was in exam and answering this question. And by the way, Shreyas, I know you're in grade 10, but this question, it was taken from one of the grade 12 question paper. So can you see, Shreyas, that already when you get to grade 12, you'll be killing these things. That's what I mean by exposure, to say when you attend any of my lessons, it is suitable to everyone who is invited for that lesson. So for those of you guys in grade 11 and 10, that means when you get to grade 12, you should be very sharp and able to therefore answer these questions, because you'll be knowing all possible ways to answer the questions. So it's not like you'll be relying on what you were taught in class. But as I solve these questions, you are able to see to what extent you can perform calculations. So question 4.4 says, hence, determine the midpoint of BC. This one I'm giving it to Nompumelelo Mtia. Nompumelelo, what are we going to do over there?
Sir,
Yebo.
I was distracted. Were you saying something?
Oh, yes. So I was saying, here the question says, determine the midpoint of BC. How do we then approach this one? Do you still remember that important question that I said you ask yourself when you're dealing with this chapter?
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna use the midpoint equation. You said BC, yeah?
Yes, BC.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're gonna use the midpoint equation, which is x1 plus x2 over 2 for the midpoint of x, and then for the midpoint of y, and then it's y1 plus y2 over 2.
Yes, exactly that, Nompumelelo. Can you see that these things are not that much difficult, guys? Can you guys see? It's just a matter of you having an understanding. So it is also acceptable for you to write them in this manner. So the question that I was talking about, Nompumelelo, is that one to say, when you're dealing with analytical geometry, if they ask you, are you hungry? For some reason, if it happens that in your question paper you see a question which says, are you hungry, just say, do I have two things? Then the rest you'll see, sorry, the rest you'll answer later. So can you see, in this case they're saying the midpoint of BC. Ask yourself this question: do I have the 2 points, and do I have the coordinates of those 2 points? So can you see, you had to firstly calculate T and P, and you now have the values there. So you just use those values to substitute into the formula. So what is, okay, there is C. Let me just write the coordinates of P. We know it is -2 and 0. So you just substitute there. So let's see, x1, we can take it to be B, being -2, and then you add x2. What is x2? X2, it is 2, then this is over 0. What is y1? Y1, it is 0 there, and then you say plus, because the formula says plus, then inside the brackets you've got -4 divided by that. So let's see, the midpoint of BC, what are we having there? Are we not having 0 there?
Yes, sir, it's 0.
Okay, there it's 0, and then there, I think we're getting -2 there. I think there we are getting -2, which means this is how we would determine the midpoint of line BC. But I'm suspecting something, guys, even though I know in these questions nothing is actually to scale. But it seems like the midpoint was actually going to be somewhere there. Maybe, for example, where x, maybe it is 1, and then whatever it is, whatever. Are you guys sure that whatever that we're doing, it was correct? Are you not suspecting that something somewhere was wrong, guys?
Yes, I'm also getting the same answer.
Or you're also getting the same answer, ne?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no. If that is the case, then we can just agree to say, even though when you look at this diagram, it seems like the midpoint of line B and C, it's maybe somewhere there where possibly x could be 1 and then that can be -2 is fine. Don't work it out by the looks or by the look of things. Perform calculations, and then those calculations, they will guide you in terms of the exact um, values there. But I'll just try and check the memo if I can find one just before we end this lesson, just to make sure that everything that we're doing over there, it is correct and we haven't made any mistake on the previous questions. So okay, so that means in answering this question, Shravan, you can just write it like this to say the midpoint of point B and C, it is that you substitute and then you give the final answer there. So let's see. The question now says determine the equation of the line parallel to AB but passing through point C. So can you see, guys, in this case, they're actually saying determine an equation of a line parallel to AB. So that means it is actually going to be a line in the same gradient because it's parallel lines because of that word being parallel. But they are saying this line, it must be passing through point C, which means it is going to be a line passing through there. So with dotted lines, this is how that it is going to look like. So it's more like it just has to be parallel to that, but passing through that. So that means we do know very well that for parallel lines, if you remember, guys, for parallel lines, a gradient of line 1, it is equals to gradient of line 2. So we know the gradient of AB is equals to 1. So that means also this gradient of this line, it is actually equals to a 1. So can you guys see that already on this general formula of a straight line of y is equals to mx plus c, you already have your gradient being invisible, 1x plus c at this point, ladies and gentlemen, which means you just substitute there to solve for c and then you give that answer. Can someone try? Can you guys try to perform that calculation and let me know what are you getting as your final answer there? In the meantime, let me quickly try and check.
So I'm getting -6.
Okay, so remember that -6, it's not an answer to the question, ne?
Yes, sir.
So I'm getting y is equals to x minus 6.
So you're getting y is equals to x minus 6, ne?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you now see my board there? Luckily I got the memo. So everything that we're doing, guys, it's 100%. Everything that we're doing is 100%. I notice some of you guys couldn't make it from the beginning of the lesson, but this lesson is being recorded. It will be posted, and then I'm going to share it for you guys to also be able to catch up. So remember, guys, for some reason, it does happen that um, you fail to join the lesson on time, or otherwise you're busy with your homeworks or whatever. So the rule is normally such that if you couldn't start from the beginning of the lesson, you are advised to just move with the flow in case if there's something that you don't understand, of which it requires previous questions. So it is advisable that you catch up so that you have a better understanding of where we are coming from. So let's see. The 4.5 question says determine the equation of a line parallel to AB passing through C or point C. So what you do is to remember that for parallel lines, you have gradient of line 1 being equals to gradient of line 2. So remember, guys, if they were talking about lines which are perpendicular to each other, that's when you say m1 times m1 times m2 is equals to -1. Then you take it from there. But in this case, we're talking about parallel lines. So the equation of a straight line, this is the formula. So you write that formula down and say, because you know that the gradient of line AB, it is equals to 1. It is also the same gradient as that line. So that means line that and line that, it is actually equals to 1. So you substitute it into the formula and say y is equals to invisible 1x plus c. Then you say at point C. What is point C? We calculated point C to be 2 and -4 over there. So always, guys, always when you try to determine an equation, what you want to calculate, it is actually two things, being m or the gradient and the c value. Once you have this, then you can easily rewrite the equation. So let's see, what are we having there, guys? When you substitute, there is y, there is x. Where we see y, we substitute -4. Where we see x, we substitute that. So can you see, letters one side, numbers one side. So we transpose, we've got negative that and that. See, what is this? You guys have been saying it is. So can you see, that means the C value, it is actually equals to -6. But -6 is not answering the question. The question wants us to determine an equation, and this is an equation which says y is equals to invisible 1x and then -6 over there. So this is your final answer in answering the question. Let's try to analyze if that answer makes sense. So for it to make sense, that's if you are able to therefore interpret that straight line. Let's try to do a bit of an interpretation there. Remember, guys, for lines or straight lines crossing in that direction, they have a positive gradient. So can you see, we've got a +1 gradient over there, which means everything is good as far as the gradient is concerned. So now, can you see, if we extend this line, it is actually going to touch the y-axis on the negative side, which confirms the C value there being a negative value over there. So what I'm saying there, it's something that you will have a better understanding of when I'll be dealing with functions. So guys, this actually brings us to the end of our lesson for today. I'm not sure if you guys understood what we're doing in today's lesson. But this question, I feel like it was a very interesting one that you can also use to practice. It's not discouraging, this question. You know, when you're practicing, guys, make sure of two things. The first one, make sure that whatever that you're doing, it has a memo. And then number two, make sure that you do not start with complicated questions, because they will discourage you to practice even more. So, guys, I think the library is getting there. We are busy compiling some question papers with their memos, packing them nicely. So on the 1st of next month, that's when everyone should get a link to get into the library. But remember, guys, it depends on the package that you're on. I think you'll only have access if you're if you've got a silver and a gold package. Just check with our manager on that one. So something that I forgot, Lerato, on this number that I'm using to do these lessons, our manager is able to access this number. So there are times where you might think you're chatting with me only to find out that you're chatting with our manager. So you might not notice. So whatever that doesn't concern the manager, they'll just ignore it or just leave it for my attention. Or otherwise, if it's something that they can assist you with, they will easily give a response. So those are the announcements that I wanted you guys to be aware of. But otherwise, did you all understand everything in today's lesson, guys? Was it clear? Let me see who has joined.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yebo,
sir.
Baba.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lozuko and Mozia, I think you didn't start with us on this lesson, but as I've said, this lesson is being recorded surely tomorrow. I think tomorrow it is when it will be posted, and then from there it will be sent in the group. So just make sure, guys, that as soon as you get that link, whenever you get a chance, you just catch up. So once you do manage to catch up and you've got some questions, what I would normally advise you to do, you can just write the time to say, for this lesson at 15:30, that's where you're talking about something. Then I'm easily able to go back to that time and listen to what I was saying there. Then in case if your question is based on the information around that time, then when we do our one-on-one lessons, we can first start with addressing the questions that you have on specific lessons. You just make sure to save the link. You can just click somewhere. It's more like you share and then you are able to copy the link and then you note down the time. When we discuss, you just give me the link and then the time, then I'll be able to assist you there. So guys, thanks very much for joining. I hope you did enjoy as much as I did. There's a lesson coming up at 20:30, 8:30 by Mr. Sibanda there. He'll be taking you through a sequence and series. So it's always a good idea that our lessons are such that whatever that I've started, he will be showing you guys on how to answer exam question paper. So just make sure not to miss that lesson as well. And remember, guys, just like today, it might be cold. It doesn't necessarily mean that in all the lessons you might need to be having something to write and whatever. So just in case if you're from work, you're from school, you've been doing your homeworks or whatever, you can just still have your headsets, get them on, and then just be listening. Then also, if necessary, have a calculator. But just make sure to pay attention, just in case if we also want you to give it a try. You're also on the same page with us. Therefore, whenever it's warm, then you can just make sure to play the lesson again, and then now taking the notes and whatever and whatever. So guys, please do enjoy the next lesson. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.